Here we are on the front of our Keystone Arcadia 21 SRK. We're going to do a technician walkthrough on our unit, and we're going to go over all of our components on here, give you some little tips and how to use some of these things. And if you need more information, maybe your unit has different name brand on it, you can find that information as well as much more information on these components in our helpful hacks section of our YouTube channel for Great American RV. So we're going to start our walkthrough here in the front. The front, we have our 7-way plug. This will connect to our towing vehicle, and transfer all of our brake lights, our turn signals, our running lights, all of that to our camper. And we also have a charge line in here to help keep our battery charged while we're traveling down the road. Up front here, we also have our breakaway cable. This breakaway cable is to be hooked to maybe one of the hooks on your bed of your truck or the pins on your hitch, but never to the handle of your hitch, because if that's what breaks away, then this isn't going to do any good. It's a safety device that if this cable is pulled, it'll pull the pin out of this little box and it will stop the trailer behind you. It will apply the brakes on your unit. This is a nice little safety device, so we want to make sure that we're hooking that up properly. Under our front cap here, we have our front compartment, as well as our leveling and our stabilization jack controls. We'll go over those items now. So here we have our controls for our landing gears, which are our 2 gears right here in the front, those legs that we would use to connect and disconnect from our towing vehicle. Extend, run the jacks down, retract, run the jacks up. We should always leave at least 5 to 6 holes showing whenever we extend these legs out and detach it from our vehicle. That way we have enough length of jack to level our unit out. So we're leveling our unit out front to back with these landing gears. If you want to level it out left to right, we need to get the stacker blocks and put them under our tires to get that straight. Then we'll go ahead and hit extend and run our jacks down and level it out front to back. From there, we'll push this button, and this runs down our LCI stabilizer jacks in the back. Once again, stabilizers, not levelers. Those should not have much pressure put on them at all, just enough to add a little weight, take a little weight off of the rear of the camper, and this will help minimize the movement that you feel in the unit whenever somebody is walking around. Both of these are 12-volt controlled motors in here. The rear jacks have an override. You can use the crank handle given to you separate and install it on the driver's side to manually crank that jack up and down if the motor were to ever fail. And on the front landing gears, it has a crank handle as well. There's a hole on the passenger side through the LP compartment that you can stick that same crank handle in there and manually operate that jack system. Here we are in our front compartment. There's a lot in here, a lot to go over. It can be kind of overwhelming, but it's fairly simple. So here we have our smart solar charger control system. This is to go with our solar panels up top, and it converts that solar power into charging power for our 12-volt system. So it charges our batteries whenever we're getting sun on those panels. Along with that, we have our RV solar disconnect. This is if we want to shut off that solar charging system, we would go ahead and just turn it to that off position. If we want to keep that on, we want just leave it in that on position. Now, if we ever are charging our unit or storing our unit not plugged in, and we want that solar system to charge whenever the sun is making contact with the panel, we want to make sure that we leave that on and it will continue to charge. Once again, we shut it off, that solar system is not going to do anything. Now below that is our battery disconnect. This panel right here is basically disconnecting the battery from the rest of our system. So whenever we store our unit not plugged in, we want to turn this system off. And this disconnects and conserves the power on our battery. But the RV solar system will still charge it even though this disconnect is off. So that's how you want to set it up. Storing unplugged, solar system on, disconnect off here. If we're plugged in to shore power, you can shut that solar system off. It's not really doing much because our converter system is charging our battery from the plugged in source that we have. If we turn this off when we're plugged in, it's not going to charge the battery. So if we're plugged in, this needs to stay on all the time. Over here we see our Lippert tire link system. This is a monitoring system. It is already pre-wired on your unit. All you got to do is buy the monitor with these sensors, install the sensors on your tires, and you can monitor your pressure of the tires as you're traveling down the road. In this big box right here, we'll find our battery, and up here we'll find our inverter prep. Our inverter prep is pre-wired system. An inverter changes voltage from 12 volts to 110, so you can power small appliances like your TV or phone charger or other outlets throughout the unit, but you'll only be given as much life as the battery will supply. Your solar system can keep up with a portion of it, but it's not going to run it forever. So you would use this in the event that you are dry docking and you don't have a place to plug your unit in. Also, in that front compartment, we have the motor for our front landing gears. You can see our post right here where that override will come in, and that post will go in and lock into there, and it will turn both of the landing gear jacks. It is a single motor that runs that system. On the driver's side of our unit, we have a propane tank here. We also have another one on the passenger side. These are controlled by our dual propane tank regulators. This is an auto changeover regulator. So you have the option to choose one tank or the other. When that bleeds down to empty, you will have a red indicator on there letting you know that that tank is empty, and it will automatically swap over to the other tank if it has gas in it, and you'll never skip a beat. Here we have our pass-through storage. You'll notice some motion lights in there. They have a switch on the top. Number 1 is that light is always on. Number 2 is a motion sensor feature. If you swap it to number 2 and you close this door, eventually that light will turn off. When you open it up, it will sense motion and kick it back on. We also have our control center right here for our gray tanks, our black tank flush, and everything else. We'll go over that in a second. Here we have our freshwater connection. Our freshwater connection, if we remove this cap, we have a little port. We could take our standard water hose, stick it in there, and that will fill our fresh tank. Our fresh tank is to be used when we're dry camping and we don't have a place to hook up for city water connection. So we'll fill this tank, it's a storage tank. We kick on that 12-volt water pump and it will supply water to all of our fixtures. Now you can fill this tank to whatever level you like. It's monitorable by the panel on the inside that we'll go over in a little while. Only take what you think you'll need. There's no reason to fill it up all the way if you're not going to use it all, because this does add weight to the unit. Whenever you're done using it or you're storing your unit, you're going to want to go to this valve underneath and drain that water out when not in use. That valve is a white hose coming out right by the axles. Simple little valve, open it up and it'll drain the water out of that tank. You don't want to leave water in there for a long period of time because it will become stagnant after a little while. Also, right in front of our axle, we have our connection for our sewer hose. This is where we'll hook it up here and go to that dump station. Let's go over all of our control center area where all our valves and water connections are now. So we can see up top, we have our shower, external shower connection. We can use our quick connect coil hose on here. We line up the two little knobbies and we click it to the right, locks it in, and we can put a spray hose or something on the end of it to operate once we turn our water on. To disconnect, turn to the left and it will pull that hose off. Below that, we have our winterization port. This winterization port is when we want to winterize our unit by adding antifreeze to our system so those pipes won't freeze. There's a whole process for this. We have that covered in a winterization video on our YouTube channel. That is where this valve comes in right here. It activates this fixture to the left for our winterization. Here we have our city water connection. This is where if we have a water fixture at the campground to plug into, we'll plug that hose into it. We can put an inline filter, come through the hole at the bottom of our compartment here and hook up our water hose here and then turn it on, and that will supply water to our unit. Off to the right here, we have this blue cable with a cap. This is our rooftop satellite prep. So that's a wire, coax wire coming from our rooftop, already pre-wired, if we want to add a rooftop satellite system to our unit. We'll also notice this little two-prong plug. This is our side solar package right here. This connects to our battery system. If we wanted to buy a separate solar panel to put out in an area that would collect sun constantly, maybe we park our unit under a tree or inside for storage and we don't have a place to plug it in, we just plug in that separate solar panel, put it out in the sun, and it will help charge our batteries. Here we have our Key TV system. This Key TV system, if we run it straight into the satellite port or a cable TV port, it basically eliminates us having to use any kind of boost whenever we swap from antenna to cable. We don't have to do all that. It's a smart system that recognizes what we're trying to do. It eliminates that antenna boost button from that coax plate on the interior. If you're new to camping, you may not know about that. Just know that all you have to do is hook up your cable coax to this port from the TV and scan for cable channels. If we have an outdoor mobile satellite, we'll hook into this port right here. Or we can take our rooftop satellite and plug it into here as well. So here is where our tank valves are. We have our black tank flush, we have our black tank and our gray tank valves right here. Pulling out is open, pushing in is closed for those tanks. Now our black tank covers our toilet, all right? That's where all our sewage, toilet paper, stuff like that goes. That tank needs to stay closed all the time, whether we're hooked up to a hose or not. We're not supposed to open that tank until we're ready to empty it out and flush that system. Whether our camping trip is over or we're just full on that tank, that is when we go to open it. So the procedure for that is we have our hose connection hooked up. Come over here, we open that tank valve. We let that system drain out. Once we're done, we hook up a water hose to our black tank flush system right here, and there's a spray port inside that tank that's going to help flush out that tank. This will help get most of the debris out of there and clean it out. And then what we want to do is we want to leave a couple of gallons of water in that tank. You can do that one of two ways. You can shut off your black tank flush, close your black tank valve, and just hold down the pedal on your toilet and add the water that way. Or you can close this black tank valve, leave your black tank flush hose on for about 60 seconds, and then shut it off. And that will add several gallons of water to your system. From there, we want to go add some chemicals through the toilet to our tanks to help deteriorate anything else that's in there. If we were to leave this black tank valve open all the time, we would cause what is called a dry tank. That means any sewage that goes in there is going to be dried up and stick to your tank, and that tank would have to be replaced rather than cleaned, because you can't clean that type of damage to a tank. So we want to make sure we're leaving that valve closed and we're leaving some water in that system so nothing dries up on that tank. Our gray tank, however, is our shower and sink water. We can leave that valve open all the time as long as we have a hose connection to the sewer port at the campground. You can let that water drain out constantly and no problem there. If you care to shut it off and only empty it when it gets full, that's perfectly fine as well. This black cap down here at the bottom unscrews. This is where you'll pull your coax, your city water connections, anything like that. That way you can close your compartment door. Our slide out is 12-volt controlled. This is a cable slide identifiable by our cables on the top and bottom on each side. We do have another video that goes into a lot more information on this in that helpful hacks section. You'll just search for cable slides. On the back rear of our unit, we can notice we have a red and blue hose sticking out with some valves on it. Those are our low point drains. If we ever want to drain the water out of our system and prepare for winterization to keep those pipes from freezing, we'll go here and open those valves and let the water drain out. We also have our second gray tank under here. Once again, that gray tank is for sink water or shower water. We can leave that open all the time. The valve for it is located right next to it that we can open up. As long as we have that hose connected, we can leave it open all the time. We'll also notice here in the rear, we have a storage center for our sewer hose. We can open that up and put our sewer hose in there rather than putting that nasty thing in our front compartment. We'll also notice our stabilizer jacks here in the rear that are controlled from the front. Once again, stabilizer jacks, not levelers. Here on the rear of our unit, we can see we have a Keystone camera ready system located right there. This is pre-wired system to add a backup camera for our unit. We also have a vent right here. This is for our range hood vent over our stovetop. It can be latched to where it's closed so we don't have any insects or rodents building nests in there, but when we use that range hood vent, we need to just come pop that open so that air can vent out. We also have our 50 amp connection right here. This is for our power going into our unit. Now this connection is fastened in by just taking it, lining up your prongs. It can only go one way. Line it up, twist it to the right, lock it in, and then you're going to put that retainer ring on there. To remove it, loosen your retainer ring, twist it left, and pull it out. Now, we want to make sure that we're not plugged into our service at our power pole, and we also want to make sure that our appliances are off, mainly our AC, so we don't create any surges when we do finally plug it in. So first step, plug it in here. Second step, plug it in there. and you can power up your appliances. On the bottom, we also have our receiver hitch right here. This receiver hitch does make it capable to be able to tow a little trailer or something behind us based on the weight capacity. We have our tow hook area, and we also have a 4-way plug here for the lights. There is no factory provided ladder on our unit, but it doesn't mean we don't need to check the roof of our unit. We need to get up there every 60 to 90 days and check the sealant around all of our vents and the side rails, and also check our rubber. We're checking for any cracking, peeling, or openings that can allow water to get into our unit. This is considered customer maintenance and needs to be done every 60 to 90 days. Putting the appropriate sealant on that rubber roof. We also need to check our roof after every trip to make sure we didn't scrape any trees or poke any holes in the rubber that can cause any damage as well. Also around the corners, lights, vents, windows, everywhere we have sealant around those too. And once again, we need to check every 60 to 90 days to make sure that this sealant is taken care of and it's not peeling or anything, and go ahead and seal over it. Manufacturers will not cover any damages due to lack of maintenance. So just like changing the oil in your car, you're making sure your unit stays sealed and your camper will last for years to come. On the front driver's side, we have the hole that we talked about that we can put that crank arm into to run those jacks manually in the front for our landing gears. In the compartment behind there, we'll find our second propane tank with the actual regulator on this side that has the indicator to tell you whether that tank that is selected is full or empty. And in our front pass-through compartment, we have another motion sense light here with our Key TV satellite and cable hookup. This is for that outdoor TV. If we have satellite, we'll go to a receiver. If we're just doing cable or antenna, that coax will go straight to the TV. We also have a GFCI outlet right here. This is our main GFCI, and you would go to it in the event any of your outdoor outlets or something doesn't work. You'll go to this GFCI outlet and hit the reset button on it, resetting those outlets. This serves as type of breaker for those GFCI protected outlets in the event they get overamped or wet. Now on our unit, we have a 12-volt powered awning. This awning is considered a sunshade, not a rain shade. So we need to make sure if we have pending bad weather or it's raining or windy or anything of that nature, we need to go ahead and roll that awning in to protect it and keep it from getting damaged. If you don't and weather damages your awning, this will be an insurance claim and not a warranty claim. So make sure you bring it in whenever pending bad weather comes in, and if you are leaving your camper for an extended period of time, it's a good idea to bring it in then. Another thing that we need to know about our awning is we may have some AC runoff. We have condensation build off on that AC and it's going to drip onto the roof, and it could end up compiling on our awning. So we need to make sure that we pitch our awning either to the front or to the back. So that means leaning our awning. Pretty simple task. So all we do is go over to either our front or rear arm, and we just pull down right at this pivot point, and that will drop our awning down and allow that water to drain off. Most commonly, people pitch it to the back because there's nobody gathering in that area. Whenever we're ready to put it back, real simple once again, just push that arm up and it will return back to its level position, and we can go ahead and roll our awning in. Also under our awning, we have our furnace cover right here. Nothing that you need to dig into. Just notice that's where our furnace is located, and we have an exhaust. This is a gas-powered appliance, so whenever it is lit and running, you will have exhaust gas come out here that will be hot. Here we have our tankless water heater made by Gerard. This will provide you endless hot water. Once again, another gas-operated appliance. We'll go over the function of these two appliances when we get to the inside on the control panels. We also have our outdoor speakers up here, both controlled by our radio on the interior. We'll notice on our entry door, it does have friction-controlled hinges, so you will notice some resistance when you open and close that door. That's so if the wind blows hard, it doesn't slam that door and it doesn't swing it open. We also have a screen door on here that can be unlatched from our main door. Close it when we have that nice weather, and it can be reattached by just pushing it up against our main door. We have our Lippert solid steps right here. These solid steps can be stored by lifting up. Always suggest to turn that handle right there so we can make sure our latch is fully disengaged and it's able to attach to the frame of our door. To pull it down, pull that lever again, and we're going to drop them down and set it on the ground. Now, after we level our unit, we need to come level our steps. So to do that, we're gonna drop our steps down and we're gonna go to the bottom right here, and we have some pins in our legs. Those pins can be pulled out and we can adjust our legs wherever they need to be in order for our steps to be level. We're looking for a solid threshold level right here where it's making good contact with the threshold, and that the frame of our steps aren't going to be in the way of our door when we go to close it. If we don't do that, that can cause damage to the bottom trim of the door. And if our threshold isn't lined up properly, it can also cause issues with closing our door. So make sure we're leveling our steps properly after we have our unit leveled out. Right as we walk into the door, we have one of our control centers here. This is for our slide out and our awning. And then of course we have our interior lights here, as well as our awning lights outside. All these components are 12-volt control. Here in our kitchen area, we have our standard 110 microwave. We also have that hood vent. This is that vent on the outside we talked about we need to have open when we're operating our range vent here. We have a 12-volt fan, and we also have our 12-volt light right there. That leads us to our 3-burner stove top. We have a glass hood over the top of it. We can go ahead and open it up. When we're in travel, we need to make sure that this is down and covered so it doesn't fall down and break the glass. Our stovetop here, we have a light switch on the side that will illuminate these knobs. And if we turn it down the other way, it will also illuminate our oven. Now, it's a good idea to have those on because it will give you a red indicator whenever that valve is turned on, letting you know that the gas is operating. So first step to activating our stovetop is, of course, we need our propane on. We would turn it to the fire indicator on here, and we would go to our ignition and light our stovetop. Now, one thing that you may find if you ever bring your unit out of storage or you just replace your propane tanks, you are going to end up with some air in your line. So before you go operate appliances like your tankless water heater or your furnace, you want to come to this stovetop first to bleed the air out of your system. Now we do this by simply turning it to that fire flame, and we just keep turning that igniter until our burner ignites. You can also get a long stem lighter and hold it right there at the burner as well. Now what this does is this allows the air to eject out of our system and eventually allow gas to come through. This is the easiest place to bleed air out of our system. Once it lights, you want to let it run for about 30 to 60 seconds. Make sure we have a nice crisp blue flame all the way around that burner, and then we can shut it off and go operate those other appliances. This reduces the opportunity for any failure codes to happen on those appliances due to air in the system. That also makes our oven a lot easier to light as well. It's always good to start that one with a long stem lighter the first time you light it after you have had your unit stored and there may be air in the system, because it does still take a little bit of time. Once it's lit for the first time, it's really easy. So let's go over the operation of that oven real quick. We have our oven. Our oven can be initiated by using our knob all the way to the right. We'll turn it to that flame sense. The only difference on this one, we have to push it down. When we push it down and hold it, we're going to turn it until that pilot lights underneath. Now, even though that pilot is lit, we have to hold that button down for a little while until the thermocouple warms up. Once we pull our thumb off of it, we should see it stay lit. Once it stays lit, we can go ahead and turn our knob to our desired temperature and our burner tube will light up. If the pilot light goes out whenever you pull off of that knob, then that means you didn't hold it down long enough and you should go ahead and relight it. Here we have our 12-volt fridge. In this case, it's a Furrion. We do have our freezer option and our fridge option. In our fridge, we have our controller where we can turn it off or go cold to colder. Now, our fridge and freezer will obviously cool our unit, but whenever we shut our system down or disconnect that 12 volts or unplug our unit, we're getting ready to store it, all this is going to shut down. So we need to make sure that because we don't have drains on this fridge, that we defrost and clean this out properly. You will have some water settle in that freezer area when you defrost it. You need to sop all that up with a towel and get it out of there, because it can leak out and damage our wood components around our fridge. We don't want that because manufacturers are not going to participate in that repair. For our fridge box, we need to make sure we're wiping all that area out too, get any moisture out, and you can even leave your doors open so it can air out and dry. We do this to also prevent any mold and mildew from compiling in our fridge or freezer. Over our dinette booth, we do have another TV area, and we do have that, once again, Key TV system with the satellite and cable antenna ports for viewing air channels or cable channels. Now we also have in our living room a WineGuard Air 360 port. This is if we want to upgrade to a router system somewhere down the road, and we purchase that router, install it, and this can give us either a Wi-Fi booster for whatever Wi-Fi is at the campground, or we can subscribe to a cellular service that would provide us LTE or 4G internet wherever we go. Our dinette booth can drop down into more sleeping area by removing the 2 poles beneath the table, putting them aside, and setting the table on the little bumpers that are in that booth, taking your rear cushions and stacking them on top. We'll notice before we go into our hallway, we have our 110 and 12 volt center right here. In the event one of our 110 appliances doesn't work, we want to come to this main breaker panel here and ensure we don't have any trip breakers. If we have a 12 volt component that doesn't work, we want to go here and check our 12 volt fuses and make sure none of them are blown. Next to it, we have our COLP detector. This is to warn us if any hazardous gases are in our unit. We need to test this once a month and make sure that alarm works properly. It does have an expiration date on it, so you want to keep an eye on that and making sure that you are changing it out once that date comes around. This is a 12 volt operated component, so we need to make sure that our 12 volts is operational in order to keep us safe. In our hallway, we have our second control center right here. This is where our meter panel is. We can hold down our battery, our fresh tank, our black tank, and our gray tanks to see what level they are at. We also have a fault light right here. This will not do anything. You won't worry about that because we have the Girard tankless water heater system. This is for a different type of heater system. It's just a generic panel that they put in the unit. Here we have our 12 volt water pump switch. This is for when we're pulling water out of that fresh tank to supply to our water fixtures. We kick it on and it will begin to feed those fixtures with water out of that tank. This is a 12 volt pump. In the event that you are hooked to city water, you want to leave that pump off. In the event that this tank is empty, you want to make sure that pump is off. It will burn it up. Here we have our Furrion thermostat for our AC system. In order to turn it on, we hold down that mode button right there and it will kick on. First mode we'll go over is our cool mode. We can pick our temperature with our arrows there on the side. We also have a fan speed. This fan speed is low, high, or auto. Low and high will leave that fan running all the time, even if the compressor turns off. Auto will shut the fan off once our unit has reached its proper temperature and that compressor has cycled off, the fan will shut off as well. Our next mode is our heat mode. This is to activate our furnace, our gas furnace appliance. So our furnace will light up and we'll notice the air coming out of the ducts or floor units on our RV. When in cool mode, that cool air is going to come out of the rooftop air, not our floor. Our furnace, it's going to come out of the floor. You're not going to have heat come out of the ceiling vents. We kick that on, it will bring your unit to the proper temperature that you have it set at, and that system will shut off. There are no multiple fan modes on here. You can hit that fan button, it'll change on the screen, but it's not going to change the speed in which that furnace operates. Our next mode is our fan mode. Our fan mode does not cool our unit, it simply circulates air throughout our unit, and we do have that low and high speed option here. Our next mode is our dry mode. This works as a dehumidifier for our unit. We can pick our set temperature and our unit will begin to cool down to that temperature. Then it will alternate every 6 to 10 minutes, keeping the air in the unit dry, but not freezing you out by constantly running and reducing the temperature anymore. If we want to shut our unit off, we can just hold that power button down and that system will shut down. Now this is our ceiling assembly for that thermostat. That thermostat runs our rear air conditioner. We do have a dump vent right here. We can open that dump and it will cool off just this area. Air will blow out. And we mainly want it closed so it will blow air through our ductwork and our ceiling throughout the entire unit. Now we do have a screen up here. That screen has our filter. We want to make sure that filter is cleaned out every now and again so we're not restricting flow to our unit. Here we are in our bathroom, fairly cut and dry. We do have a shower in here with our standard fixtures. And our shower head has an on-off button. That on-off button is used when we're dry camping. We're trying to conserve the amount of fresh water we're using or the amount of gray water we're putting into that tank. We can use that on-off button rather than having to go back to these fixtures and find that sweet spot for our hot. So we have that option, and also in our shower bathroom area, we have a 12-volt vent up here. We can open that up and vent out any steam or hot humidity air that we have, and this will help reduce the opportunity for any mold or mildew to build up in our bathroom. We also have our RV toilet. Our RV toilet is controlled by a pedal down here at the bottom to be able to dump. Now, if we're doing number 1 and just doing liquids, we can just go ahead, hit that button, water will come in and send that down the chute. If we are doing solids, number 2, we want to build up some water in that bowl. So barely hold that pedal down and water will begin to come out. We want to make sure that ball valve at the bottom stays closed so water can build up, and then we can go ahead and flush our solids straight down the drain. This helps make sure it goes down the drain properly and doesn't cause any clogging in our pipes. Now, we want to make sure we use RV toilet paper only. That way it will degrade properly. And we want to make sure we're putting our chemicals in right here through our tank system. We also want to make sure we don't put any other excess products in there. RV toilet paper only, and the sewage that goes in it, nothing else, because this can cause some issues with your drainage. Also, here in our bathroom, we have another GFCI outlet. This is our main outlet. We would go to reset any of the other GFCI outlets that may not be working. Once again, with another green indicator light letting you know when that system is operational. If it were tripped, we would see that light be off. We just come over here and we hit that reset button and it will reapply power to those outlets. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the two types of temperature. We have our on-off button, and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now, once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now, these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shutoff mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on, and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again. In our master front bedroom area, we do have another AC. This one is a Furrion. We have our controls here on the ceiling assembly themselves rather than the thermostat. Our option for our knobs is cold to colder right here to control our temperature. And then we have our fan, which once again just circulates the air, doesn't cool it. And then we have our cool option right here that will actually turn that compressor on and cool the air. We have a dump valve here. We want to leave this one open so that air can be pushed out in this area. The vent work is for the rear AC. Our other option on here is a heat option. That heat option isn't going to come factory to be able to control heat. And if it did, it would only be for this unit. You would have to buy a separate heat strip to put on here, and that would have heat come out of just this AC system. We do have another screen right here with a filter that we need to keep clean on a regular basis. Our bedroom provides us with storage under our bed here in the front. And we also have another backer for our television, as well as that Key TV system with our satellite hookup and our cable antenna hookup as well. Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us. And keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.